Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's special countryside, featuring our trip to the Calf of Man, Kiri.
And a very beautiful island that is. The guys are doing a great job out there protecting it, the wardens, and monitoring and keeping up to date with the bird life and the wildlife. And we had a wonderful guide in Lara Howe, and all the tales and quirks about the island. It was really, really good trip, wasn't it?
Yeah, and also we spoke to the people who took us there on the boat as well, from Port Lamora to take us there, and also some of the people who were just enjoying the day out, taking photographs as well. So here is our Calf of Man special countryside for you.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, when people on the Isle of Man, whether on holiday or live here, are down at the Sound on the very southern tip of the Isle of Man, you can look across to the Calf of Man. It's only 1 square mile in area, a total of 618 acres, Kiri.
In 1951, it was donated to be a bird sanctuary to the Manx National Heritage.
And we were lucky enough to being able to take a trip on the boat from Port St Mary off to the eastern coast, to Cow Harbour, where we got there courtesy of Dewan Clegg in his boat and Anne Kay, who were in charge of it. The purpose of the trip was to find out more about decoy puffins, which have been situated around various parts of the Calf, to try and attract the puffins back to nest and lay eggs on the Calf of Man. And our chaperone was the marine officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, Lara Howe. Well, Lara, we've made it here successfully, and it's a beautiful day here on the Calf of Man. And we're just looking down over the edge here, and there's puffins here.
Yes, there is. Sadly, only decoy puffins, but yes, we have puffins on the calf.
The object of the decoys, and why are they here? Because I'm sure I remember years ago puffins being part of the Calf of Man.
Yes, they have been historically and in quite large numbers, but more recently there's been a decline of puffins, and I think we haven't had any puffins breeding here since the 80s. So the aim of the project is to try and encourage the puffins back to start nesting here on the Calf again.
Do they sort of take them for real puffins? The ones that were flying over?
There's been success in other areas where they've trialled this project before. So there is the historical background to support this, yeah. So between the speaker system and the decoy puffins, you need both. So the speaker system draws the birds in from sea because they hear the calls and think, oh, what's going on, and come in to have a look. And then they see the decoy puffins and go, oh, look, there's lots of puffins here. Maybe this is a good place to have the chicks.
The speaker system, you said, with the noise, is that recorded from proper puffins?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Like mating calls or something like that?
It's just normal puffin chatter that plays out sort of to sea, up to about 1 kilometre away, so it draws them in from quite a distance.
Do the puffins that are flying past stop here occasionally? You mentioned about them trying to get them to breed, but do any sort of stop maybe and just go because there's no other ones here?
We don't really see many. It'd be the odd one that might land. But generally, obviously, unless they're nesting, they don't come to land. Generally, they spend most of their lives at sea. So we wouldn't really tend to see them coming ashore anyway. But we do see them sort of in the waters around the Calf.
Is it ideal territory for puffins?
Yes, it is. They like sort of remote islands or steep sort of cliff areas, which we obviously have a lot here. And there's nice grassy cliffs for them obviously to burrow into. So historically we've had them here, so there's no reason, at least in terms of the habitat, why they're not here now.
There's the many other ones that have been here in the past that sadly aren't no longer?
We've had a decline in a lot of our seabirds, and it's a problem that's been seen, across the whole of the UK, not just here, but obviously the Manx shearwater, which is one of our iconic bird species, used to nest here in thousands, and its numbers have declined considerably over the years, which is why the Manx Shearwater project was set up, to try and bolster their numbers and try and get them back in significant numbers through the eradication of longtails. And that's where the sort of puffin project came from as well, was because they're ground nesting birds like the Manx shearwaters, so the eradication of the longtails would have meant that the eggs have a better chance of survival and things like that, rather than being predated on. So it's a win-win for both bird species.
You seem fairly confident though that this project could be successful. I suppose you got to be.
Well, yes, but it has been done in other islands and they have had success with breeding pairs coming back. I think it was on Copeland Island Island, they've managed to introduce puffins that were never there to begin with at all, but they've used the speaker system and decoys as well, and within 4 years they had a breeding pair of puffins. So fingers crossed it works here.
We're looking over towards Ireland from this side of the Calf. I mean, is this the only place where they're situated?
No, we've got them on the east coast as well, an area called Keone Holby, and that's where the speaker system is as well. So we know that historically from the records that the wardens used to keep, that this is the main areas where they used to see the puffins. So both sites have been chosen specifically for the historic records of puffins being seen in these areas before.
I mean, although they look real, they're not quite fully alive, but they look it from up here. I mean, are they there all year? They must be hardy birds.
Yeah, they are hardy birds. No, they come down after the breeding season and they get boxed up. They hibernate in one of the sheds over winter until the beginning of the season, where they get put out again to just kind of protect them.
Is it quite a long breeding season for the puffins, or is it quite a short area of time?
It's not too bad. Usually it's similar to a lot of the other seabirds, so we tend to make sure that everything's up early before the season starts. So in March we try and get the speakers and the puffins up so we don't disturb any other birds that might be breeding in the area as well. And then puffins will probably finish breeding sort of June, July time, and then once we're really sure the season's over, sort of August time, we'll take them all down again.
One of your job roles is, I wouldn't say keeping Rick, but keeping the wardens and the people on the Calf here who are monitoring the birds and things. I think they're over the other side, and we're going to go over and have a chat with them in a second or two. But I mean, that's part of your role?
Yes, part of my role is that I get to look after the wardens on the Calf and make sure that the very large, endless list of jobs gets done, and that obviously the ringing is a large part of that work. So we make sure that the ringing gets done and the bird surveying to ensure that the observatory functions as an observatory as best we can.
We've got to walk past Spaghetti Junction yet and head over to, where are they at?
They're over at the observatory at the minute actually, so we'll head over there now, past Spaghetti Junction, and go and see them.
Nathan, so how did you come about working here on the Calf of Man?
Well, I've got previous experience of working on islands. Working on islands is something that I enjoy, so that's why I applied. Previously I've been on the Farne Islands off the coast of Northumberland, Mingulay Island in the Outer Hebrides. So yeah, it's something that I enjoy.
And here today is absolutely beautiful, but I can imagine it can be quite wild.
Yes, definitely. Recently we've had some pretty stormy days. It's kept the food supply boat away, so we've had to supply on our sort of rations. But yeah, it's nice being on a remote island and looking out to sea and feeling isolated. Yeah. I like that.
But you have a specific job to be doing while you're here, though. Is it a lot of areas you're really interested in?
Yes, definitely. That is another thing I liked about this role, is that it's quite varied. So I'm the estate warden, so I'm in charge of ensuring that the observatory is ready for guests, lots of painting around that. There'll be some dry stone walling as well, some repairs on that. I recently made a stile, so lots of that sort of work, but then I'm also assisting Aaron with the ringing as well, so that's been really enjoyable.
There's many seabirds here, as you can probably hear in the background. They are absolutely in abundance. How are the numbers here on the Calf?
The numbers are good, they're reasonably stable. In terms of migration as well, it's been a really good year for that. So we've ringed over 3,000 birds so far, so that's great.
And you've only been here 2 months?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That is absolutely phenomenal numbers. But are you seeing any new species arriving in our waters?
Well, the best species, the best new one that we've had this year has been the red-footed falcon, so that was great. We actually managed to catch it in a net as well and then ring it, so it was the 5th red-footed falcon to be ringed on the British Isles.
So how do you think he came about to being on the Calf of Man?
Well, potentially got blown off course by some easterly winds, and it stayed around for a bit as well, so it enjoyed the good numbers of insects that we have here. So it was nice seeing it flying around, hawking for insects.
Sights like that make your job absolutely priceless, I imagine.
Definitely.
So how do you catch these birds to put a ring on them?
It's mainly through mist nets. So we've got a wide array of mist nets around the observatory, and then also around what we call the withy, which is a small pond, and then some willow.
So it's pretty painless then. They can just get tangled up a little bit and then you're there to the rescue.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like a badminton net, I guess, and it's usually black, so they don't see it very well, and it's got sort of pockets in it, and they get trapped in there. And then, we just untangle them and get them out.
So how do you manage, obviously you were saying before, on some wild days the food boat doesn't get here. Is it quite self-sufficient where you grow your own crops and vegetables here?
A bit late in the season, but we are just now starting with some planting, which has been great. We had a volunteer, Fiona, come out, and she passed on some good knowledge, so that was great, and sort of turned over some of the soil. And we've already got some rhubarb growing from previous years, so that's nice. Maybe have a crumble soon.
Yeah. But do you get lonely though, Nathan? It's only you and Aaron here. It's a long day, I imagine.
It is, so it's a very busy day. There's not really any time to get lonely, to be honest. And Aaron's good company, so yeah. And we've had plenty of guests and volunteers as well. So.
With the knowledge you'll be picking up from Aaron, he's obviously involved in a different section to you. That'll be quite valuable to you.
Yeah, it is. So it's been great. So I'm a trainee ringer. Aaron's taken me on as his trainee. I've switched to him as my trainer, and I've been able to ring over 1,000 birds. So that's been a great experience for me.
We're out here to see the puffins being lodged into the rock face. They're only pretend, but there's hopes that the real puffins will turn up one day.
There is. So there are some at Peel, and we may attract some from there or elsewhere. This should be an excellent place for them. They have been here breeding in the past. Now that hopefully it's longtail free, it's an excellent place for them to breed.
So I assume it was the longtails that basically seen the diminishing numbers.
That will be one of the main causes, but also puffins, like other seabirds, are facing a tough time in terms of fish stocks due to overfishing, and also sea temperature rise caused by climate change.
So it's quite a difficult situation then. You're seeing a lot of decline from what humans are doing, basically.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah. But with work like what we're doing, we can buck the trend, and if everyone pollutes less, then you never know.
Certainly help, won't it?
Yeah.
Aaron, you have a wonderful job here on the Calf of Man as the bird warden. How did it come about?
I originally came here in 1988 as assistant warden, came back the following year as warden, and spent until 1990 there, and then lived on the island for sort of 10 years after that.
And it's drawn you back here again though?
Yeah, we moved away to Lincolnshire, but decided that we'd come back.
And has it changed much?
Not really, no. No, it's very much the same.
Nathan was telling us before that the seabird stocks have dropped a little bit, and you probably noticed that since your last visit.
Yeah, certainly numbers of shag that we have breeding around the coastline have been up to sort of 300 pairs, where I suspect this year probably only about 150, maybe 200 at the maximum.
And what's making this happen?
Well, there's a number of factors. I mean, as a long-lived bird, I mean, shags can live sort of 20 plus years. So they do go through population fluctuations. Yeah. Certain species like razorbill, guillemot, kittiwakes, they rely very much on sand eels, and sort of sand eel stocks, certainly in Scotland, have dropped considerably. You know, whether warmer waters drive away fish like that, you know, that can have an effect. So there's certainly a lot less razorbills and guillemots than there were.
Well, we've just witnessed you down over the cliff edge here. You were busy counting the nests.
Yes, counting the nests of herring gulls.
And how are the numbers on these nests this year?
At the moment, these seem pretty high, so we're doing okay with those. Gulls are perhaps much maligned elsewhere, but the numbers that we have on the calf are sort of internationally important. As a sort of a group of species, the herring gull and the great black-backed gull are actually declining worldwide, so we should be quite proud of the populations we have.
And when will these hatch?
These will hatch round about the end of May, beginning of the first week of June.
Will you ring the baby ones then, or do you?
Yeah, we'll make a sort of a second visit to the colonies, probably around about the third week of June, once the young are big enough. And yes, we'll ring the young if we can catch them.
It must be a hard job trying to catch a hold of some of these birds.
They do run around quite quickly.
So you have a busy day in general, though, looking after the Calf of Man?
Yeah, it usually starts around about 4:30. We're up at 4:30 to open the nets around the observatory. We operate the nets through until really until we stop catching birds, which today was about 1:30, and then have a bit of lunch and then back out again.
And obviously into the evening times there'll be a lot of birds coming back in for night time, would there?
Yeah, different species. Obviously the Manx shearwater is one that we're very keen on here. As a species, it wasn't here when I was here previously, but the programme of eradication for the longtails has sort of been successful, and we now have a healthy population back on the island. So a couple of nights ago, Nathan and I were out monitoring those until about 2:00 in the morning.
Goodness me, so it is a full-time job, right round the clock.
It is all right round the clock, yes.
So you've got a busy summer ahead of you, Aaron. How long will you stay on the Calf of Man?
So we're here till mid-November. That's when we finish for the season.
And you'll be busy right up until then, do you think?
Yeah, pretty much so, yeah. Once spring migration is finished, which will sort of around about sort of mid-June, and then we're full into the swing of breeding birds through till July, and then from August the returns, autumn migration starts.
And what do you think of the puffin situation? You're obviously really trying to entice them to the island. Do you think it will work long term?
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed it does. When I was here in 88, I actually saw puffins landing up at Keener Holby, which is one of the main areas that we're trying to encourage them to, which is probably one of the last records of seeing them ashore here. We have actually seen one this year.
Oh, good.
So, hopefully the decoys and the recorder will do its job.
Because obviously it has worked in other parts of the UK as well.
Yeah, it's a proven way of doing it. So I think, it does sometimes take several years. So
We've just got to be patient.
that's it, indeed.
That was the Calf of Man Wardens, Aaron Stapsford and Nathan Wilkie.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, on our Calf of Man special. Well, our guide on our trip to the Calf was Marine Officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, Lara Howe, and I found a little rock to sit on and look out towards the Chicken Rock and asked her a little bit more about the spots around the Calf. Well, we've managed to perch ourselves on a rock here at, what's this place called, Lara?
Down by Gorlang.
Just looking out, the Chicken Rock is there, the waves in the background, just the birds. Is this why you do jobs like this?
Definitely. Where else do you get a view of Chicken Rock that's quite so spectacular, with the thrift coming out and the pinks and the gulls just quietly calling in the background and the waves breaking? What more can you ask for?
And I suppose it's one part, a special place, the Calf of Man, but to walk around, and you've got your favourite points, I suppose.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I love the Calf, and everywhere to some extent is special, but I think some of my favourite places are sort of over by the lighthouses. It's a great place to watch the sunset. And of course, we've got the decoy puffins over there, so it's nice to watch them, sort of admiring the view. And over down towards Cow as well, Cow Harbour, where we've got the seals, and looking back over towards the Isle of Man across the Sound.
When you look out this way, I suppose you can't really see many other islands from this side where we're at, and that makes it feel a little bit more remote as well.
Absolutely, you only get the odd sort of large ship passing through on the horizon, so there's nothing all the way as far as you can see.
Do these places that are all round little coves, of course, around the Calf, I mean, do they all have special interest for different people and for different reasons?
Yeah, some areas are important for the nesting birds and things like that, so some people will come for the birds, or might be a nice sort of beach area for the seals to come and haul out, so it's nice to see them having a little power nap. So yeah, every sort of cove and gully is special for different reasons.
But your role in the Manx Wildlife Trust, I mean, doesn't just revolve around the Calf of Man, unfortunately, probably, or is it the other ones just as interesting, the roles?
You're right, I don't just manage the wardens on the Calf, I also do a lot of other sort of marine-based projects, and I love it all, really. It's great. Obviously, I get to come to the Calf to do the seal projects, the seal surveys in the autumn, and that's one of the perks of the job. And of course, again, coming back here to set up the puffin project and plant the puffins.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different projects, but there always is this drawback to the Calf.
When we were coming here on the boat from Port St Mary, there was
I think dolphins swimming just a little bit further away as well. Is that an important part of your sort of liaison with the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch also?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice when we see sightings on the boat to make sure they get reported back. And also we run Adopt a Dolphin project with them as well, and it's all about adopting Rizzo dolphins, so we still work closely with them wherever we can.
What about the flower side of it here? Is that much of your remit, or is there other people that keep an eye on that, or is it just left as natural as it can be?
It's left as natural as can be. Obviously there is some grazing with the sheep because certain bird species like short grass, but in other areas it gets quite long, and that's benefit as well. But it's not something that we spend a lot of time working on, and I think we'd get people in to do surveys. So Andre, Wildflowers of Man's been and done surveys before, and occasionally the wardens do orchid surveys as well.
What's been the highlight of your time, particularly coming to the calf as we're here?
Highlight? That's a real tough one. There's been a lot, but I think it would probably have to be being here and being involved with the seal monitoring and seeing the seal pups as they grow and develop from... I've never seen one being born, but seeing a pup shortly after it was born and then seeing it through to development through the sort of few days that it takes to be weaned. So that's a special moment to see them grow and develop.
Do they have their own identity?
Yeah, definitely. I think some of them definitely do. You get to follow them and monitor them, and some of them are really bold and some of them are a bit stupid. But yeah, they all have their own little personalities.
And are they, the birds that get captured here and obviously let go again, but they're ringed as well to keep IDs on them, and are they tracked in some way? Are the seals like that?
Obviously here we're not doing any sort of tagging work with any of the birds. We're still just using the ringing methods that, has been used by observatories for years. And at the present, we're not tagging seals. It would be something I'd really, really like to do, especially with the potential for marine developments from wind farms and from a possible tidal array. It'd be really interesting to know where the seals are foraging for their food. We know that they're big movers within the Irish Sea. We know that individuals from Strangford Lough have come to the Isle of Man, to the Calf specifically, and that was through a tagging project that was done a few years ago by St Andrews. But sadly the tags are very expensive, and that's the prohibitive factor for us doing it here. But it would be really useful information to be able to tag them and see where they go.
Well, we spoke earlier about the Puffin project here to try and get some back on the Isle of Man, but is there any plans to try and encourage any other species back here, or here for the first time? Would it be suited to specific types of birds in particular?
Yeah, of course. It's a great coastal habitat, so that's always a bonus for a lot of our seabirds. Obviously we've got the Manx Shearwater project that's been running since 2012-2013, which had the aim to eradicate longtails from the island completely, and it's been a big project, and we are seeing benefits from that, which is obviously, like I said, why the Puffin project was started, because we've reduced the longtail population considerably. Hopefully we'll eradicate them completely, but at the moment we can't say that. So there is the potential for other species, yes.
And what about birds migrating places? I think I've heard people talk about in the past that some of them just stop here for an overnight and head off somewhere even further.
Yep, absolutely. Hence why we're an observatory, because we get good numbers of migrating birds passing through en route to other destinations, and it's that little rest before they fly off again. So it's a great place in the autumn and spring for migratory birds.
We're here sitting on one of the best days of the year here. I can imagine it's not quite like this every day in your work.
No, absolutely not. We are very lucky. It's a sunny day here. We do get some really, really windy days where we can't get much done, or where the rain's absolutely pouring it down, or it's really misty and it limits what you can do. But even on those days, they can be special.
Would different things thrive on that sort of weather sometimes, if it's been a dry spell like we've had?
Yeah, it's quite good for doing, when it's windy, for doing sea watches, because a lot of the seabirds come closer inland, so it gives you the opportunity to do seabird counts, which is quite nice. And sometimes if it's really bad weather, we can get some really big numbers of birds coming in, and it maybe gives us a chance to hopefully spot the odd puffin too.
What about people that come to the Calf of Man maybe from all around the world? A lot of them will be specialists in certain areas, and What do they make of it? What's their reaction when they first get here?
I think they're quite surprised by what's actually here for such a tiny little rock on the bottom of the Isle of Man. It packs a big punch in terms of species that can be found here, both sort of on the Calf itself, but in the waters around the Calf as well. We have great diversity for such a small little rock.
You are an experienced diver as well. I suppose you've dived off the Calf of Man here as well. Is that a special marine environment round the Sound and around the Calf of Man?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best dives around the island are around the Calf. Because of the strong currents, it brings in lots of nutrients, which provides obviously a lot of food for a lot of life. So some of the diversity around here is absolutely spectacular.
And what special things do we see under the water? Is it quite a way down?
You can see stuff fairly shallow, or you can go a bit deeper. One of my favourite dives is the Burra. There's sort of deep sort of gullies that you can swim through, and the walls of the rock are just covered in anemones, and it's just beautiful. Pinks and yellows and oranges. It's a really, really beautiful dive.
Yeah, now how far under the water is that roundabout?
You sort of 30 to 40 metres.
That's quite deep enough then.
Yeah, it's one of the deeper dives, but you can do shallow ones around the Calf as well and still see lots of amazing life. And we occasionally get sort of Rizzos passing through, or you get basking sharks. Sometimes the seals might come and sort of have a look and say hello.
Basking sharks going past you when you're diving?
Yeah, sometimes off the Calf. We tend to miss them, but yeah, you do see them on the boat. Yeah, or going to dive sites.
Sue Leeming, you've been on the Calf with us here. What's been your role today?
Well, I mostly came out to do some photography on such a beautiful day.
Are you a member of the Ornithology Society, is it, if I've said that right?
Actually, I'm a member of the two societies, the Manx Ornithological Society and also the Isle of Man Photographic Society. And I was fortunate enough, about 2 weekends ago, the Manx Ornithological organised an overnight here on the Calf, which was beautiful, where we were able to see the wardens working, ringing and netting, and also I could do photography at the same time.
Is it a special place for a photographer?
I think it's a very special place, very untouched, very beautiful, and the lighthouses are magical.
And how difficult is it to get decent photographs of the birds? They don't like to come too close.
No, they don't. I suppose you need to maybe be still and wait for the birds to possibly come to you.
There's no hides though, is there?
No. And you just have to be quick. But you do, as I say, with the boys up there, there's obviously quite a lot of birds on the island.
I mean, it's one of your loves, taking pictures of birds and places like this.
I love wildlife. I love wildlife a lot. And the scenery, the island is beautiful. You know, there's so much to photograph here. It's absolutely beautiful. And the Photography Society run events during the summer as well, so they try to get you to places like this and to different areas of the island that maybe normally you wouldn't get to, you know, where there is such beauty.
Are you fairly new to photography then?
Quite new. It's been a few years, a couple of years really. So yeah.
And how difficult is it to, when everyone buys these modern cameras and thinks, yeah, just point it and take a picture, when you get more and more into it, is it a lot more to it?
There seems to be.
You need an eye, people say to me.
Yes, you've got to have the eye.
2 is even better.
Yes, but the eye helps. But I think these days, you know, anything goes. Whatever you photograph, if it brings some joy to you, then it's right.
How many do you print out, and how many million are still on your computer?
I print quite a lot, actually. I do print quite a lot, but there's probably thousands on my computer.
And it's been a good day today for you both?
Beautiful day, beautiful. And as I say, Sue, who was with me, was out to get specific shots, which we managed to do.
Well, Anne Kay, I don't know if you're in command of the boat or second in command. I suppose it depends if it's
in command. I'm the deckhand.
Right, well, it's very clean, I'll give you that.
Oh, well, he sometimes lets me tidy it, and I even tried to tidy inside the cabin. But I'm also Vice Chairman of the Manx Ornithological Society. I used to teach at Castle Rushen High School, and I had a young ornithologist club when I was there, and I used to bring the children out to the Calf on day trips sometimes, but we also used to come out in May and stay for the weekend. So there's a lot of people who are much older now who came out with me to the Calf. But
you must have had 1 or 2 trips out to the Calf then, have you?
I have done well over 1,000 trips
really?
To the Calf, starting in 1979. Since I've been crew, Joan and I are out sometimes every day, but certainly we do over 100 trips a year.
Really?
And the boat keeps going all year long.
Well, don't put the kibosh on it, we've got to get back here.
The only thing that stops us is if we can't get in the harbours. Now, Duan, I would say, is the best boatman in the whole of these southern waters. And he knows this coast like the back of his hand.
Well, there's only 2 areas you can get in, isn't there?
No, if you know what as well as Duan does, there are lots of places where you can land if you have to.
Well, we better get a word with the skipper then. Duan Clegg, you've been at this a while, have you?
Oh, 40 years. Boatman for the Lighthouse Board and the museum.
Still enjoying it?
Yeah,
Better than life in an office.
that's what I've said before.
It's been a fine day today. We're
Yeah.
lucky, I suppose, but
Yeah.
I bet you've been in some
Well,
delicate ones, have
Yeah, 1 or 2.
you? Aye.
Yeah.
And how bad does it get? I mean, there's quite... Is
No,
it
well,
the
we don't-
currents around here bad?
Yeah, we don't come if it's too bad.
No.
I mean, there's nobody in danger out here. Got food and water and bed, so if it's bad, we don't come.
It's not very wide, the harbours here, though. Are they tricky to get in?
Yeah, if it's any swell, they can be tricky. Yeah.
What about the well, I shouldn't say Al boat, because I don't know how old it is.
Well, it's 40 years old.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it ideal for this sort of trip?
Ideal, made for the job, does the job better than some others.
No sophisticated machinery on it to go wrong, but look at it.
No, it's dead simple, reliable engine. It's not fast, but gets you there and back.
Well, many trips on the boat out here. I mean, do you often sort of have a walk round?
Yeah, have a walk round, yeah.
Just so different when you come here compared to the
Yeah.
main, even
Yeah.
though the Isle of Man's quiet.
Yeah, no, it's different altogether out here.
Well, thanks for getting us there, and hope you get us
Hope
back.
I get you back all right. Probably won't start now. After saying all that.
Well, Kerry, that's it. The boat is just here, ready for us to go. What a trip it's been, hasn't it?
It's been a lovely experience. What a great place it is. It's just absolutely nature at its best, isn't it? All the birds and just the peace and quiet as well. It's been fabulous.
And the great thing is, with Lara, Aaron, Nathan, all the people that are on here, they've got one sort of aim, is just to try and preserve this as best they can and encourage more to get here, isn't it?
This is it. The tasks that they're doing, monitoring the birds and the wildlife and keeping on top of the rodents that tend to ruin it sometimes. They've got a really, really hard task ahead of them, but they're achieving it so well. And the people that can come and visit, they're so delighted to show off what they have achieved so far here on the Calf of Man. And it's just a magnificent place on a day like today, Simon.
Yeah, we've been
Very
lucky,
lucky.
and it's just great that, and we hope, we were both chatting about it with them all here, weren't we, about how it would be fabulous to promote it, but keep it as it is.
That's it. It's so unspoilt, and the mobile phones don't really work, and it's just back to how the Isle of Man probably once was all those years ago. And it's just a little bit of tranquility, and you can just have a bit of downtime and think about the world, can't you? Really?
Time for a couple of sandwiches before we get back on the boat.
Definitely.
Well, what a fine place it was to have a picnic as well, just before we got back on the boat for our trip back from the Calf of Man, Kiri, wasn't it? Absolutely beautiful.
It really was, and even the journey home, to stop and have a look at the stack of all the nesting birds, and it was just wonderful to see such sea life.
Yeah, good job at the white coat on me, looking at them birds. It was so close to it, wasn't it? But I must say a big thanks to all the people involved in making it so special for us. Duan Clegg, the skipper of the boat, and of course Anne Kay, assisting as well, keeping an eye on explaining a lot of things on the way, just not just the Calf of Man, on that trip round the chasms and below Kitterland and places. And also we spoke to Aaron Sapsford and Nathan Wilkie, the wardens that are living on the Calf of Man at the present time, and also the photographers that were there, and also to our guide. What a wonderful person, so enthusiastic, and a great help she was on the day, Laura Howe, the marine officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust. And just be beautiful to go back there, and if we get the weather like we had that day, and spend the night there, that would be something special, isn't it? You just sit there and listen to them birds at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, they're very, very lucky, and it's an absolute must for anyone that lives on this island. 40-minute boat journey, it's just right there.
Kerry, just before we go though, you've got a big event at your farm coming up.
We have Open Farm Sunday in conjunction with an organisation across the UK and Ireland, LEAF, Linking the Environment and Farming. We open our gates to the public to come and enjoy and see some of the most friendliest animals we have, and just to learn all about where your food comes from, to get a chance to get up close with the animals, the sights and sounds. And that's on Sunday the 11th from 10 until 5 at Orrisdale Farm.
I'm looking forward to that. We'll both be there on the day, so come along and see what a big farm is like.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, what a special honour it was to be guided by Marine Officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, Lara Howe, during our trip to the Calf of Man from Port St Mary. And the people we spoke there to on the day, and it was just peace and quiet and tranquility, wasn't it? Beautiful. And we're so glad that we were talking about that, weren't we? So glad that it's not changed and not going to be spoiled, hopefully.
Well, that's it. And the people that are involved with keeping the island right are so passionate to preserve and protect and even improve some of the aspects of the Calf of Man. It's going to be in safe hands, I do believe.
Yeah, marvellous lighthouses. Well worth a trip for everyone, but you have to get it organised pretty well in advance. But we'll leave it there for this week's Countryside. We'll be back next week with more. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kerry Kermode.
We'll see you next week. Ta-ra.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.